Hey everyone, welcome to the pregame live stream from Packers News and JS Online. I am Tom Silverstein. I'm here with Pete Dougherty, who is playing Leroy Butler again this week because it's Alumni Day and apparently he wants to be around alumni more than he does around us. I can't believe that.
Boy, that kind of hurts, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It really kind of stings. But I've come to expect that type of thing from him over the years. But
well, he's a big timer and a Hall of Fame finalist, so that's what we should expect, right?
That's right. That's right. And as is appropriate, you're standing in for him. So just like you do at the Hall of Fame meetings. So, Pete, I'm looking out in the stadium, and there's a pretty good amount of Steeler fans here. I don't know if you noticed that walking into the stadium, but they travel pretty well here.
Yeah, I saw quite a few. There was a tailgate where they had a camper, and there must have been 15 or 20 of them there. I'm sure this stuff, they travel great. Isn't that what? The Steelers, Packers, Patriots, Bears used to be on this list. I don't know if they still are as the teams that travel best. I think I'm probably forgetting somebody. But I think the Steelers their fans always travel a lot. And, this has to be a bucket list destination for a lot of people. So that combine those two. And, we could have a big Steelers contingent here.
Used to be a hard ticket to get here at Lambeau, but not so much, especially since they expanded the stadium. You can't blame people if they're going to get huge prices for it.
Yeah, I think with some people, if they sell a couple games of tickets, they can pay for most of the season. Depending on how the market's looking, or they can sell half their games and get the other half that they don't have to pay for if you're a season ticket holder. So it is hard to blame them. And I've noticed that. I think we've talked about this before, but I'm sure you've noticed it too in the last 4 or 5 years with all teams. I think there's more fans at Lambeau for the visiting team than there were, 20 years ago when we were doing this, just because of the secondary ticket market has gotten so much better, with all the online avenues.
Yeah, it's far more easy to get it. You don't have to go through eBay now, or that was, and then even before that, then you had to be really lucky, go through the paper, go through Press Gazette back when we had classified ads. But anyway, let's not reminisce anymore about how old we are and kind of get to the game. So there's 6 starters out in this game. The Packers have 4 starters out: Elton Jenkins, Kevin King. Now you're going to have to remind me who else is out.
Barnes is out.
Oh yeah, Barnes.
Jenkins, you said. And, if you want to count Zadarius Smith and MVS, MVS is out for at least.
Yes. So there's a bunch, and then the Steelers will be without wide receiver Chase Claypool, and they're also without their right tackle, whose name I'm not going to try to butcher out here. But both teams a little bit shorthanded. I don't know who that benefits. And
the Packers have more guys out, and if Zadarius Smith, and I read the story you did, I think we're thinking along the same lines. This is probably season ending, right? And that's a huge blow to these guys. That's a really good. I thought their 3 most indispensable players are Rodgers, obviously, first, and then it's either Smith or Alexander, their second and third. So take your pick there. But this is a huge loss for the Packers pass rush, because guys like that make plays, and they also draw attention, which makes the other guys around them better.
Do you think this could be the last we've seen of Zadarius Smith in Green Bay?
Oh, it's got to be a real possibility with the cap issues they're facing next year. If they really feel like they need to cut salary, and they trade Rodgers, and so Love is their quarterback. Yeah, I could see them moving on from Zadarius Smith. I don't think it's a given, but it's certainly something they'll be kicking around. And then back injuries. I don't know if he'll be the same guy. By even next season.
Yeah, and so many people had kind of thought the Packers were going to extend him, that they needed to. And this is kind of why you wait. You don't necessarily, if you're a team, you don't necessarily jump into that unless it's your quarterback or, I'm even a little bit surprised with Devontae Adams. It hasn't been done yet. But, there's certain guys you just know that if you go too early, there's a risk there.
Yeah, that's why a lot of teams have that policy where they wait until the guy is in the last season of his contract before they'll extend him. And the only exception they'll make for that is basically quarterbacks. So Smith, I didn't think there was any chance. I understand him, maybe not being crazy about his contract, but he still had 2 years to go this year and next year. There was no way they were going to redo that deal. Maybe next offseason, especially if he hadn't gotten hurt, then maybe they do an extension. But there's no way they were going to do that this season. And as you say, this is the reason why is, they got 16 games to get through, healthy, before teams will want to do that.
Yeah, and from a cap standpoint, I almost think that him having a really good year and them extending him next year would have been better than them having to cut him, although they can, designate him for a post-June 1 cut to save some salary cap money. But they'll take, they pushed off a lot of salary cap money on him into the future. So they'll take that hit next year.
Yeah, because with the big bonus they gave him this year, or next, like in the offseason, they give him a big bonus, $1 million salary, and his cap number next year would actually be pretty low.
Yeah. So the Packers also put Marquez Valdez-Scantling on injured reserve. How do you think that affects the offense?
I know he drives fans crazy with the drops, and there's a chance, better chance with him than, a decent number of receivers in the league that you throw the ball to him downfield, there's a decent chance he'll drop it. But defenses have to honor that guy. He is one of the best big deep threats in the game with his speed and height, and whatever shortcomings, that stretches defenses. And the Packers are definitely going to miss that today because, who else do they have with that kind of speed who can take the top off of defense? Really, nobody. Adams can get downfield, but he's not a burner. I mean, he's fast, but he's not, in the 4.3. He doesn't run the 4.3s like Valdez-Scantling does.
Yeah, and what's interesting is, I guess I hadn't noticed it until I just glanced at the stats the other day, and he'd been targeted like 16 times and only caught 6 passes. So they take their shots. Sometimes they're pretty low percentage shots down the field, but there's purpose to it. So I don't know. Like you said, I don't think they have anybody else who can do that. I am kind of interested to see if Equanimeous St. Brown has anything. They tried to use him for a play or two in the Detroit game, but he's a guy with a lot of talent. He just doesn't have the same talent as MVS.
Doesn't have the straight line speed. I know you're pretty high on him, and he is a big guy who runs pretty well. He's just been hurt all the time, which made him a perfect practice squad guy rather than a guy eating up a spot on your 53, because it just seems like if he's on the 53 and out there playing every week, it's inevitable he's going to get hurt.
Yeah. So one of our readers asked whether you think Eric Stokes has secured a starting spot on the defense, even with when Kevin King comes back.
Oh, it sure seems like it, doesn't it? And I mean, he's playing better than King by quite a bit. I'm sure he's still going to take some lumps. He's a rookie, and all cornerbacks get beat, and rookie cornerbacks especially. So he's going to have some rough, bad-looking moments. But I was just thinking about this. We both go back about the same amount of time covering the team. I think what did you start in the late 80s? So you probably have, 4 or 5 years on me there, but not in age, just on time on the beat. But I'm not sure I've seen a guy improve as much from the start of training camp to 4 games into the season as this guy has. No one comes to mind. Now, there probably is somebody, and I'm not thinking of it, but I'd be curious what you think of that.
That's a good question. I need a little bit more of a refresher, but I sort of feel like Craig Newsome was kind of like that in 96. Was that his rookie year? 95. 95, yeah. And, they were grooming him to start. They really wanted him to start. But I remember him having some issues early on and then getting better. Sam Shields was kind of good right from the start. You could see the talent there.
He just jumped off. It just seemed like every other day he would make an interception on 11 on 11. I mean, you just never see that. It was like, who is this guy?
Yeah. This guy, the combination of size and speed, I mean, he's sort of the combination of Newsome and Shields together. He just needs to learn to play the position. And if he does, it's too bad he can't catch. I mean, I watch him in drills in practice, and he might as well have 2 oven mitts on because he just cannot catch a cold. It's pretty bad.
That's why he's a cornerback, right? Otherwise, he probably would have been playing receiver.
Exactly, and that'll be probably why he went in the late round. And some viewed him as a second round pick. I know a lot of people didn't like his hands and thought that was huge. That he didn't play the ball well either. But that hasn't been the case here.
It's funny because going in the draft, and I probably only talked to, I don't know, 4 or 5 people who had a good grasp of the overall draft. And I don't think I think one of them thought, late 1 for him. I think the rest thought, he could go there, but they thought he should be a 2. And I would say the early reviews are he's, long way to go for this guy, all those caveats. But the early read is, this guy was worth a 1.
Yeah. So last thing, I think, just looking at both teams, I think this thing is going to be won in the trenches. I mean, Pittsburgh's offensive line has been terrible. They're missing their right tackle, although that might not be a terrible thing for them. And the Packers are going to have to figure out some way to block T.J. Watt and not just T.J. Watt. Cam Hayward and Singleton. I mean, this is going to be probably even a bigger challenge than blocking San Francisco, don't you think?
Yeah, they have a really strong front 7, and obviously the defense has to be the strength of that team now. Lancaster had a pretty nice game last week. Not having him, that D-line, I still think, even though they played well last week, kind of my gut feeling is they need to add somebody up there, although now with Zadarius Smith being out, it might just be they'll have to add an outside rusher instead of an inside guy. I don't know if they have the resources to do both unless they just go for, marginal upgrades, rotational guys there. But, the whole D-line, and Pittsburgh wants to run the ball. Najee Harris he's going to get the ball a lot. And, last week the Packers were surprisingly, to me, stout against the run against the guy who teaches that outside zone probably better than anybody was Shanahan. But it's basically a similar challenge this week with, a higher quality running back.
Yeah. So will be interesting. It stopped raining. It's overcast, but shouldn't be. I don't know what the forecast is for the rest of the day, but right now it looks pretty good. So
yeah, when I looked at it earlier, it was like rain through. I think it only said through like 1 o'clock, so it's obviously a little later than that. But it looked like it's not supposed to rain for the rest of the day. But I checked that about an hour and a half ago, so maybe it's changed.
Okay, all I care about is from about 10 o'clock or no, more like midnight. When I have to leave, make sure.
To walk to the car. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. Anyway, well, thanks, Pete. And be sure you check into the live blog. I'll be starting in, about 20 minutes. You can reach that on packersnews.com. And then follow all of us, Pete, Ryan Wood, myself, and we'll have all the post-game stuff, stories, videos, podcast after the game. So for Pete, I am Tom. Thanks for joining us. Catch you next time.